Welcome to Season 4 of Everything is Learning. This season, we're celebrating neurodivergent people, their stories, strengths, challenges, and the powerful ways they learn and live. Because honoring every individual's brain and lived experience makes the world a better place for everybody. We're excited you're here. Let's dive in.
This season, we've had the opportunity to connect with esteemed individuals who celebrate and uplift neurodivergent voices in bold and meaningful ways. Today's guest is Michelle Hammer, a powerhouse creator, entrepreneur, and visionary force behind Schizophrenic.NYC, a bold mental health-focused streetwear brand that blends fashion with advocacy. We're proud to be wearing some of her work today.
Yoo-hoo!
Through her work, Michelle sparks conversations about visibility, acceptance, and empowerment, proving that clothing can carry messages far deeper than fabric. Her work has been featured on runways, in media outlets, and across the vibrant streets of New York City, always with the goal of making mental health and neurodivergence part of everyday conversation. At her core, Michelle is an artist, a disruptor, and a force for cultural change. Hooray! She thrives at the intersection of creativity, business, lived experience, and advocacy, bringing humor, honesty, and style to everything she does, connecting with people in ways that feel authentic and unforgettable. Whether she's building her brand, collaborating with other creators, or sharing her insights online, Michelle's voice resonates deeply because it's real. She speaks candidly about mental health, neurodivergence, and societal perceptions with refreshing honesty and wit. Through Schizophrenic.NYC, Michelle has created more than a clothing line. She's built a platform for connection and community. Her work invites people to embrace boldness, lean into color, as you can see, love her hat and pillboxes, and creativity. And remember that fashion has the power to shift culture. With every story told and every piece, Michelle is reshaping how we think about mental health and neurodivergence as integral, powerful parts of human diversity. Her mission is clear: to build a world that's brighter, more inclusive, and proudly neurodivergent. Thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
We are so pumped. We want to talk a little bit about what we're wearing first because we're massive fans of your merch and massive fans of you as well. But I've got the same one on that you do, but mine is tie-dye. Everyone can see. Merce, can you read it?
Why don't you read it out loud for those who are just listening?
I can't read it backwards.
Sorry. So it says, "Don't be paranoid. You look great." And mine says, "It's not delusional. You are incredible."
And Michelle, you have the same one on that.
Yeah, mine says, "Don't be paranoid. You look great," on just the black tee, the classic black tee.
Yes, which we
love.
Love the black and white line.
Yes.
I know that right before this, you were telling us a little bit about that, so feel free to let our listeners know.
It's just easy, especially if you're in New York City, to just sell things on black t-shirts. Like, especially New Yorkers, like, we wear black all year round. Like, some people,
Right.
like I know, like, I've got family in California, and they're like, I was going to a summer wedding, and they're like, "What are you wearing?" I was like, "I have a black dress." Like, you can't wear a black dress in the summer. I'm like, I'm from New York. We wear black all year round.
That's
What are
right.
you talking about, right?
It is
So a
not
black
just
tee
for
was
Halloween.
perfect, right? Like, if I had a table full of all colorful shirts, people would be like, "What is going on here?" Like, we don't wear these colors.
sure.
What are you talking about? Like,
No,
no,
it's very
black.
on brand for New York, and that is quite on brand for you. I hear you.
We love that.
So.
We're
And
upstate
you know
New
what?
York,
They don't show dirt a lot. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
They don't get as
yes.
dirty. If they were white, who knows how dirty they would look?
Well,
You know.
right.
We do. I have to say, when we both got our merch, first off, we love that you write notes when you send your clothing.
Yes.
That is such a beautiful
so great.
personal
what
touch.
What a wonderful touch. Yes.
We were both like, "Oh my gosh, like, she knows us." We know that you didn't realize, but it was just like, it was one of those things where it was just like, this is so cool that you took time to do that. So loved that. But number two, as moms of young kids, we were like, this is so comfortable. Like,
yes.
Because you can buy merch from people or you buy things online and it comes in and like, I'm obsessed. Like, I got a long sleeve, it's tie-dye, it's so cool. I love the yellow lettering, but it's comfortable and I can be in it all day. And I could share a powerful message with people. I don't know. I'm just huge fan.
Yeah, like, I'll walk
Definitely.
down the street wearing this shirt, people are like, "I like that shirt. Oh, that's a funny shirt. I like your shirt." Or somebody will be like something, it says, "Don't be a parrot, you look great." Some people just go, "Thank you." You know?
That's awesome. I'm
I can't
glad.
wait to wear it to, like, the first festival around here because like, Rochester
Right.
Oh,
has
yes.
festivals all the time, like, all year round. So I cannot wait until someone's like, "Oh my gosh, that's a great shirt." I'll be like, "Here you go. I should carry your cards, Michelle. That's what I should do."
Yeah, one time I was popping up and this old man comes over, he goes, "I appreciate the compliment, but I don't look so good."
I also like that you did a voice.
Yeah.
That's how he spoke, that's how he spoke. You never know who's gonna walk by, it's always, like, a funny thing because it's like New York City, you don't know who's walking by.
Right.
You never know what you're gonna experience.
Very true.
You really don't
Very
know, you
true.
you don't know.
I
Hear you on that.
I miss the city. I do miss the city. It is so random. I love it. But so we usually start with an icebreaker question, and one of the ones person I had was, when you need inspiration, where do you go or what do you do?
Honestly, it's New York City. I just walk around the city because everywhere, first of all, if I'm thinking of clothing inspiration, I look around and see what people are wearing, what's popular, everything. And you can see in the different like generations of people what the younger generations are wearing versus what the older generations are wearing. So I see what like different colors or different like just the style of what's really happening and do that. And also for like art inspiration, there's tons of art galleries, but also more than that, for art inspiration, look at all the ads all over the place. Like, Times
Right?
Square, it's ads everywhere, because
Yeah.
that's also inspiration for art. Like advertisement is all artistic. What keeps you engaged, the typography, everything coming in, that's all art. So just walking around the city with people and with just the art all over, just being displayed everywhere. And there's also the I guess like the graffiti or like the murals and everything that's
Mhm.
also a huge inspiration. So New York City is inspiration just by being itself.
That's awesome to hear
Love
and
that.
fully agree. And I appreciate what you said about Times Square. So we have an uncle or had an uncle. He unfortunately passed, but he used to work for Kodak and then moved to Fuji. But it was so fascinating how much he loved and learned about this brand because he was in sales for these companies. But
Mhm.
he talked about how even like the appearance of the picture or the perspective and angle and how all of that plays in color, contrast, attracting the eye, and how much that really is art and like the
Yeah.
intentionality behind it. I actually got to take a class in media in college, and it was so fascinating to think about like I flip a page in a magazine or I look at a billboard, but how much somebody spent time thinking
Mhm.
through each precision point on that and what that message sends. So I definitely love that you said the billboards in downtown New York and Times Square because people will walk by just on their day and not even register that, but that is totally art.
It completely is art. Before I started working, like, doing the Schizophrenic.NYC thing, I was working in graphic design, web design, some development, like, all over the city in different jobs, like, everything, and it
Wow.
it was just, like, advertisements for radio, advertisements for wine, advertisements for loiter stuff. It was just everything went into it. People would go, "This sign off on this, sign off on this." And it would take forever to do things sometimes because everybody has to sign off on something, but
Right.
it would get somewhere and you would finally and it would be really awesome once we finally developed something, but it would
Mhm.
take a long time to, like, get there, and people would just be like, "Oh, click, click, just a thing, click," but they don't realize that it took hours for people to make some of those things.
For sure.
Yeah.
It's
For
just,
sure.
like, you see a huge ad, like, you don't know how many people made that ad happen.
That's true.
Well said. Well
Yeah.
said.
Sometimes I feel like I post a Canva on our Instagram or something, and I'm like, this took me 3.5 hours, and somebody's gonna scroll right by it. But it made me feel good. I felt like I put out art. So there you go.
There you
But
go.
It's true. It's true.
yeah.
And that actually leads me to my first question, which would be what first inspired you to combine fashion with advocacy? Because you not
Mm.
only did fashion and advocacy, you created a brand. And so I'm wondering, do you have a favorite design you've created and what story does it tell in addition to all of those things that I'm curious about?
Well, the whole thing, like, starting the whole thing, I mean, I just mentioned, like, I worked in, like, the city doing graphic web design and all that stuff. But being schizophrenic, I kind of kept losing every job that I had. I just couldn't like my
Oh,
cognitive skills, like I couldn't have that corporate New York City just I couldn't handle I just couldn't handle how just fast-paced everything was or handle office
grind.
politics or just understand I just couldn't figure it out. I don't know what I kept doing wrong, but I kept losing all of my jobs. And it was
Okay.
just I was like, I can't figure this out anymore." And then I was kind of like on the train one day and I looked down the train and there was this homeless schizophrenic guy talking to himself the exact same way that I speak to myself. And I was like, the difference between me and this guy is that I have a support team of my family, friends, and doctor. And if I didn't, I could be homeless just like this dude. So I was like, what can I really do
Oh,
to somehow make awareness for schizophrenia, you know, and just make something very bold and try to help out with the mentally homeless like community. So what am I gonna do? I'm an artist. So I just decided to make some clothes and starts popping up on the street. Just completely just started doing this and started talking to people about mental health. And it kind of just got picked up in a few places. And I mean, like my favorite design, I kind of like the blue Rorschach test design. That was my original design. And then
okay.
just my slogan was don't be paranoid, you look great. And then people just liked it so much that I turned it into a shirt and then it started selling. And then people wanted more slogans, so that's why I got into those. But originally, the design was just like Rorschach tests, and it just kinda snowballed from there, and that's how I just got started doing it, and I was one of the first schizophrenia, like, advocates to ever, just start on their own. I mean, there was, like, the famous people like John Nash, who was a genius, and he was schizophrenic. And then there's Ellen Sachs, who's a professor, and she's schizophrenic. But then there's Michelle Hammer, who couldn't keep a job, and she's schizophrenic, and she's on the street selling shirts. "Hey, how you doing? I am on the street. Nice to meet you." So, it was kind of like, "What do I do now? How do I make a change? Let's do something." And I just kinda figured it out, and it worked out pretty okay, I guess.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, we're massive fans.
Thank
Well,
you.
and the fact that you've done runway shows, I mean, like, what started small and probably not even originally in your design, and look how much it's grown. I mean,
Yeah.
I also want to commend you. So the examples that you gave, and I don't even know both of them. I do know one of them, but the point is there's not many known that I would say, because you have to be open about a diagnosis. And that's a scary thing. It requires you to be vulnerable and brave and all the things, because someone could exploit that.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
but what I appreciate is you found a way to take something that is a common misconception, or perhaps even a common portion of a diagnosis, and turn it into something great and aspirational. Not just inspirational, but aspirational.
Yeah.
And like, as Elena had mentioned, your clothes are comfortable. As someone who really does need comfort in their daily lives, like, it's fun that I can look great and feel great, and that's what I appreciate about this. And I think a lot of that is another thing that I really love about what you said is I wouldn't have thought of using the Rorschach test, which I think everybody kind of knows. Oh man, I forget the name of the movie, but there's a character called Rorschach, and he wears this mask, and it like morphs into all of these different blobs. Anyway, the point that I try and make is I think that's like a common thing where I understand that it's been used to see, like, what do you see? Kind of like people reading
Yeah.
tea leaves. What do you see,
What
right?
do you see? What do you see?
And I've
Exactly.
always associated that with as an assessment and never as art. And I love
Mm.
that spin.
Yeah, yeah,
Like, you
yeah.
take things that are pretty um common as like in a day-to-day item, and you make this really amazing twist. And there are lots of things I'm good at. I don't necessarily see creative in what I would have assumed is just daily, perhaps even mundane, but you make it beautiful. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. I try my best.
One of the things that Marissa had talked about and you kind of aired to was like assumptions.
Mm,
Particularly where you were talking about the person that you had seen on the train. And I think that um one of the things that people do is they hear schizophrenia and they do assume things. And you talk about that a lot on Instagram and on your videos.
Yeah.
where the way that media has almost criminalized the mental illness of schizophrenia. I just wonder, what's one assumption people constantly make about it that you wish you could erase from public consciousness?
Mm.
Well, I mean, there's always the violence assumption. There's always that one. People think, I mean, recently, like, there was a comment, but I made some videos with my friend Kit, and she's schizoaffective, but somebody commented, "Can you guys go out in public without being violent?" And I just commented back, "We're out in public in this video." Like, what the hell
What
question is that? Right? Like, there's always the violent one, but then there's always the one that's like, "Can you live a normal life?" Like, yes. Can you get married? Yes. Can you drive? Well, I can. Some people can't, but I can. Like, simple questions. It's just most questions that I think are simple, but maybe other people don't. So sometimes, like, I try to change ideas, but I think maybe are they the most obvious things, or are they just trying to? I don't know if things are so obvious or less obvious, or what am I actually ideas that I'm changing, or I'm kind of talking in a blah, 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 but you try to understand what I'm saying. It's
No,
like,
I do,
you're
because it's
you're making a lot of sense because what you're
yeah.
asking is like from the person who I don't know if you guys have ever seen Harvey, I think his last name is Feinstein, who was an actor in the 80s. Barbara Walters interviewed him and asked him about what it's like to be gay, and he like walks around and she was like, "Well, so are you attracted to everybody?" And then she goes, "Are you what did she say?" She said something like like, how does it feel to be gay? And he was like, how does it feel to be straight? And then
yeah, I love
he
that.
also then goes, so you walk around thinking everyone is heterosexual. I walk around thinking everyone is gay. And or did I have that right? I don't know. So
Yes, you
get
did.
what I mean.
I know exactly.
And
It's the guy who's played Robin Williams' brother in Mrs. Doubtfire.
Doubtfire.
Yes,
Yes, that's
yes,
right. But my point, Michelle, is to you, you're like, I'm in this body. I live this life. Like, why are you asking that? But the reality too is, and this is the duality thing, you're living your life and you understand schizophrenia. And a
Mhm.
lot of people are unlearning from you. So
Oh, yeah.
something that seems like I'm here streaming and I'm out in public, but you're asking me that question. That seems a
yeah,
little odd, right? You're
Yeah,
streaming
yeah,
in public. But then
right.
there's other people who are like, oh, okay, maybe we haven't seen you drive. So like what does that look like? Or what does, it's almost like what's the dystopian film Jim Carrey's in that people are now referencing because of
Oh, Eternal Sunshine or something.
no, it's not
Oh, I
Eternal
don't know.
Sunshine.
is it the
Gosh.
Truman Show?
Yes, The Truman
Oh,
Show.
the Truman
So,
Show.
you know what I mean? But like that's kind of how it feels to other people too, is like we're watching your life, Michelle, and we're like learning so
Yeah,
much and we're
you're giving us
unlearning so
glimpses.
much
Yes,
that like even watching you, sit on a couch seems like a totally different reality to people who have never been around people who are schizophrenic. So that's so fascinating you talking about that line of like people learning and also unlearning at the same time and how that could even like that must be confusing. That must be confusing.
It is, it
Well,
is. I thought of another thing that bothers me, because I was sitting, because sometimes I, like, go to the Fountain House Gallery. If you submit things, you have to, like, spend, like, 2 hours a month just, like, sitting at the desk, counting the people. But everybody at the gallery, everyone that submits things, has a mental illness. And a woman comes in one day,
oh,
she's looking around, she says hi to me, she doesn't know if I have a mental illness or not. And she's just like, you know, "Everyone has a mental illness, these artists." I go, "Yeah, I know." She goes, "They're just so creative." And I just go, "Everyone can be creative."
yeah.
You know? It
you don't.
well
That's not like part of the like creative, it's like the analogies that they do in the SAT. Creative is to mental illness in her mind.
right? That
Like that's
Yeah.
the only way that you can be.
like,
That's
anyone can
interesting.
be creative, you don't have to have a mental illness, and not everyone with a mental illness is creative. You
That's
know?
so true.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? Like
Isn't it wild the messaging that that person must have received throughout their life too about art and creativity?
yeah, they
Like
just go, "Well, Van Gogh, Van
Literally, I
Gogh."
was just thinking. I was like, the old,
Like,
I
he
imagine.
loves loves to reference Van Gogh. They're
That
like,
is
Van Gogh had a
creative.
mental illness. Yes, he did, and he was a good painter. That's true.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. But how
Sure.
many other artists did not? Did Da Vinci have a mental illness too? Like, how far are we going back in time? Like,
For
Right.
sure. For
Hieronymus
sure.
Bosch? What about that guy? That guy drew a lot of details. Was he bored? Did he have anxiety? Why was
Well,
he drawing millions of little people all the time?
or Frida Kahlo, for that
Frida
matter.
Kahlo, she
Georgia
drew a
O'Keeffe.
mustache and a bad eyebrows on herself. Was she
Yeah.
mentally ill, making herself purposely look ugly?
I
She
know, I
maybe
hear
did she have
you.
a BDD or something? Like,
Oh,
she
I
wanted
wonder
to
if
make
they
herself
think you live
uglier,
in the dark in a cave, because as you were
right?
asking me, like, "Do you drive? Do you go out in public?" Some of those other questions, I'm like, "They must think you live in total darkness, like, in a dark room, in a
Have you
cave
ever
with
had a
no
job?
resources."
Did you graduate college? Do you live with your
Oh.
parents?
Doesn't it tell us though, doesn't it tell us about society, right? And at the same time too, the really interesting part, Michelle, that I like about when you talk about your advocacy is you realize that it's such a spectrum. And you also talk about how everyone's mental illness is individually different. Like you were referencing the man on the train. Like you know in your mind that if you didn't have the supports in place, that you're like one step off from that. And I always think about, and I'm not going to quote it correctly, but there's some kind of quote that the one group that we are all one step or one situation away from is being disabled. So like if you get in a car accident, you can be permanently disabled, like those kinds of things. And I think that people oftentimes other situations, and the stigma that comes with a lot of this is really toxic to the point that you're getting questions about, like, are you able to live your life? And that just goes back to, I think, the discussion about portrayal in media. I am a huge comic book fan, and when I think of schizophrenia, and this is awful, and I don't mean it in the way that I'm about to say it, but I do think of Arkham Asylum. Like, I love Batman. So to me, the very first time I was ever introduced to schizophrenia was in a comic book, and I was a kid. So imagine people in older generations who knew about putting people in different institutions if you had schizophrenia, and these years and years and years of
Autism,
no one unlearning it.
mutism. Yeah, well, right,
Yeah,
epilepsy, like, it wasn't just that, but it was, like,
right.
all of these conditions that we now kind of fall under neurodiversity, and, like, I think about that. My son, well, actually, both of my children, because both of them have a diagnosis, but my older one is non-speaking and I think is more outwardly presenting, would probably have gone or, like, in a different situation, would have been recommended to an asylum, and I cannot imagine my life, like, how beautiful and fulfilled and the joy that he brings, can't imagine what that would be like for me, but that is Elena, to your point, that's what it was like back then, and that's what some people have as a reference point,
I
which is why
know.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're changing things because that
Yes.
won't be the reference point for my children.
Yeah.
But, I also think about, the notion that you had mentioned about how you said and I would like our listeners to know, so you mentioned that you're schizophrenic and you had the friend who you were working with who is affirmant, what was the word that
Schizoaffective.
you
Schizoaffective.
schizoaffective. Can you go into what that is?
Well, schizoaffective just has more of a mood disorder related to it, like a little bit of a
Oh,
combination of bipolar and schizophrenia combined.
oh, I was not familiar.
Yeah.
Learn something new.
Yeah.
Everything is learning, so thank you for that.
No problem.
I have another question for you, which is in the notion that what kind of a world are you hoping that your line, Schizophrenic.NYC, helps to build, not just for now, but for the next generation of neurodivergent artists and entrepreneurs, or even for children, like we were just talking about?
I mean, I would just hope that it shows people with a mental illness that you can start your own brand and actually have it become something, you know? You don't
Uh-huh.
have to be that afraid, like, "Oh, I have a mental illness. I can't do anything. I can't work. I can't do," you know? No, you can make your own job. You can work. You can do something, you know? You're not gonna live in your parents' basement the rest of your life, watching Bravo or something, you know? You can
Very true.
you can do something. That's what I hope it shows people. Like, look at me, like, I'm schizophrenic. I have a job. This is what I did. That's what I like. That's what I think, like, sometimes people come to my pop-up and they see that and they like that, and I just that's really the message that I'm trying to show to other people with mental illness, if I can do it, so can.
I love
Yeah.
that. And I have to say, in addition to yours, I also love, there's this girl who is on the autism spectrum, Jordan, and she did Jordan's summer t-shirt project that has turned into Be Kind to
Oh,
Everyone.
cool.
And then Trevor, which I'm forgetting his last name, but he has one about inclusion, and inclusion is spelled INCLYOUSION, and
Mhm.
like does in addition to shirts, he does coloring books and things like that. So the
Oh,
other
that's
thing about
cool.
yours isn't just an apparel line. You do other things, which I also love, because I feel like some people just get boxed into, oh, it has to be a clothing brand. No,
Yeah.
you can do art. You can do like, I know you had do pillboxes, you do hats, you do pants. Like, yes, it is clothing, but it's beyond clothing. I wanted to ask, did you design the art that's on the wall behind you?
Yes, that's all my artwork, and then I put it on some canvases.
It's so
It's
cool.
beautiful.
Thank
So, yeah,
you.
no, and I think that's such a powerful message, and I love that you did that for you and that you're
Thank
encouraging
you.
others as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
When you made the brand, or since you've made the brand, I guess how long has it been since you launched?
Honestly, I think it's actually been a pretty long time. It's maybe been 10 years, but I can say for the first few years, I had no idea what I was doing. No clue. No clue.
But you
You
didn't give
know?
up. So
No,
that's
I
another thing
didn't
I want people to
I
hear.
didn't have anything else.
Well,
Yeah.
okay.
You know?
But also, you figured it out as you went. You didn't have to have all your ducks in a row in order to
Mhm.
do something. And I think, like, the momentum is the piece that I think people get stuck on, is like, I have to have everything perfect. No, just you have an
Just
idea,
do it.
happen. Right. Yeah. Sorry, Nike.
Nike it.
But yes, just do it. Yeah. And you did.
So I was wondering, so 10 years, has the word schizophrenic to you evolved over time? Like, what kind of relationship did you have when you started with the brand to now? Has it evolved at all?
Well, the thing is, when I first started, I didn't quite realize how many people were gonna lose their minds that I didn't use the word schizophrenia and not s and use schizophrenic. Like,
Really? Huh.
I g so many people popped off on me because it wasn't person first language.
Ah, okay.
Like, I got yelled at one time so hard, like, at my pop-up shop, like, and it just, like, I finally was just like, I had a podcast at one point, and I was like, "Listen, listen, listen. I am the person with schizophrenia. I can say
Right.
what I wanna say. I know what offends me and what doesn't offend me. I didn't even know you weren't supposed to say that I'm schizophrenic until someone was friends with my friend said, "I'm supposed to say I'm a person with schizophrenia." That was 2 years after I was diagnosed, and I hadn't started my line yet. So I was like, I've been offending myself. Well, nobody even said this to me. I didn't even know people were gonna pop off. But you know who really doesn't care if you call them schizophrenic or a person with schizophrenia? That homeless guy sleeping in the freezing weather by the subway
Mhm.
with schizophrenia. He doesn't care if you call him schizophrenic. So people pour all this money into campaigns about first person language when we can take all that money and help out with the homeless mentally ill that don't give a crap what you call them. They would rather
Right.
have homes and help. So, like, I think now people are understanding that identity first language is okay. It's okay if the person says they go by it. Every kind of culture of people have certain words that are okay to be said to them. If they're okay with it, it's fine. If they're not okay with it, it's not okay. It's just like anyone else. People say, "What are your pronouns?" You know,
Mhm.
it's like you respect the person that says what they want to be called. But
For sure.
10 years ago, for some reason, people were popping off. And I had
That's
to defend
odd.
myself a bunch of times.
Yeah. I mean, I'm saying that's odd, and that's probably not the right word that I should use. I'm surprised. That's
It's
what I
it
should say.
it's like you're fighting the wrong fight.
That's exactly what I was
Right.
thinking. I was like, "You're mad at the wrong thing,
Yeah.
Right.
ma'am."
Like, you're really
Uh,
mad at the wrong thing. Like, if you see my table and everything I'm doing, and you're gonna
just
just be like,
walking by.
"No, That's a label. You're using a label in your name. Like, why don't I tell you about the whole thing instead
Right.
of, like, you just going, "That's a label."
It's interesting though because now I'm making the connection to people saying like I'm autistic versus I'm a person with autism. And
Yeah.
it's interesting the way I love that you said like different communities, different groups of people identify differently. So how do you identify now or do you identify both ways?
I mean, both ways. I mean, there's different it's always tone. Like, if someone's like, "That idiot schizophrenic," that's
Right.
offensive because you also call me an
Sure.
idiot, but, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, anything can sound offensive, but also if someone was like, "That dumb woman," like, that's offensive, you
Sure.
know?
For sure.
It's
For
always
sure.
tone, but I've always said that I'm schizophrenic. It's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, my mom said that she likes to say that I have schizophrenia, and I'm like, "That's okay, mom, you can say."
And it should be with whatever is in your comfort zone. So
Right,
unless you
right.
are getting upset and popped off, like then what does it matter? But yeah, the thing I'm taking away from this is not only was she mad or that person, it might have been a man, whoever it was mad at the wrong thing. But I also appreciate that they did some in-person trolling rather than some media trolling. Like,
And then but
rarely
that
do I have
person
somebody say something to my face, which
That
I'd
per
rather have.
that same person was like, "You know what?" She was like, "That's a label. That's a label, and this is terrible. And I'm a mental health advocate, and I've written books."
Okay.
Who are you and what books were these, lady?
Yeah, but there we go. Yep, yep.
Nobody knows who you are because I've never heard of you ever again, and I'm very well known in a lot of communities. So, like,
There we
who
go.
are you, lady? Like, who are you?
That probably
You're
bothered her.
definitely not This lady definitely didn't have schizophrenia, that's for sure.
It
I would assume she would doctor a doctor that has patience. Treats her patients nicely.
Especially because she wasn't at least schizophrenic to be able to talk about that. But the
Mm,
fact that people are out here, and this is why we love having people like you on, Michelle, because we need people like you to say, like, stop popping off about things that you don't personally know about. Like, you should
for
not be
sure.
talking about something like this when
You're
it's
an
my lived
observer.
experience,
Exactly.
in a way where you're shaming my lived experience and trying to control my narrative. Like, and I think that that example is so important for people to hear, especially for someone
Exactly.
who is as articulate and w- just wonderful and inspirational as you, because people will believe it. People will listen to your voice. And
Yes. You
everyone's
come
voice should
across
be
as
listened
very
to,
authentic.
but you
And
are authentic and it gives you validity.
that's just what I'm trying to do.
We actually spoke with someone, his name is Mark Allen, and he is like us, neurotypical, but he is a parent to neurodivergent children, and I thought it was a word because I had only learned it from him, but he talks about moment of, dysregulation as fizziness, which I think is such a nicer word, kinder word, and he's like, "That's not even something for me." So now, anytime my son gets a little bit dysregulated, I'm like, you're just being a little fizzy right now. And automatically, like, it puts me in a better mood to like try and help him. So I hear what your friend is saying, and I'm like, I want to adopt more of the things that I've learned in speaking with people who are neurodivergent and in general the terminology that is used, because I think it is very affirming language, which I'm glad. Like, I don't think enough attention has been paid to it, and it probably doesn't always feel like it, but I gotta tell you, as an ally and a that I love someone so closely who does identify as neurodivergent, I gotta say, like, the fizziness, I kind of like, I get a little fizzy too sometimes. Like, I think I will encounter something that makes me dysregulated, and I'm like, and I have really no I don't know if excuse is the right word, but I have no excuse, and I'm like, I'm feeling a little fizzy now. So, no, I really appreciate what you're saying, and since we're kind of talking about curbing societal norms, which societal rules and expectations do you feel liberated by when you decided to ditch them?
Well, like, when I first got diagnosed with schizophrenia and, like, some family members, like, extended family found out, I felt like I had to act more normal around them. And then I
Oh,
thought back,
interesting.
like, these people have known me my entire life. Why am I
Yeah.
acting different? I'm just gonna be the same me I always was. And that's when I realized my whole life, I'm just gonna be like, just because I got a diagnosis doesn't mean I'm a different person than I was before my diagnosis. I'm not gonna change myself at all. I'm just gonna be me,
Amen.
you know? The
Yes.
diagnosis didn't make me a different person. It just
Right.
gave me a reason to explain why I act like I do. So I was like, I'm just so like I said, like I keep repeating myself, but I was like, I'm not gonna change who I am at all because I've always been me.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But
I
that's
love that.
such a great point. Like, a diagnosis doesn't change you.
Yeah.
It changes maybe the way you see things, but it doesn't change who you are, and that's a really empowering thing to feel, and it's so great that you say that because I, as someone who, like, lived through someone else getting a diagnosis, my son is too young to even understand what that means, and I understand what it means, but, like, it literally was just a day in his life. It was a very meaningful day for me, but, like, it didn't
Yeah.
it's a blip on the radar for
I
him, and
mean,
so I
it
think about
yeah.
that.
It gives, like, an explanation for some
Sure.
actions, right? And then it could lead you to the right and correct treatment. But,
Right.
Yes.
it
Accessibility.
isn't really it just you are you the whole time, you know?
Right.
It tells you
Yeah.
maybe why you acted like you did, but you shouldn't change yourself around people just because now you know what you're supposed to be, and you don't wanna be like, "Oh god, they act like this because of this." So, no like, my aunt and
Yeah,
uncle have
no.
known me since I was born, right? Just because
Yeah.
they found out I got diagnosed with schizophrenia doesn't mean I should act differently now.
Right. I think
It's like
that'll be
we're
really affirming for people to hear.
yeah.
Um, you know, I I am wondering, I don't recall, how old were you when you were diagnosed?
With at 18, I was diagnosed as bipolar, and at 22, I was diagnosed with schizophrenia.
Okay.
Okay.
So, oftentimes in the media, you hear bipolar schizophrenic. Can you explain to our listeners, is there a difference? What the difference is? Because I feel like those two are often paired together.
Mhm.
Yeah, so bipolar is more of a mood disorder, which has like highs and lows that go along with it. And schizophrenia is more just a disorder in your just when you have like a it's positives, it's positive symptoms, negative symptoms, and cognitive symptoms. The positive symptoms doesn't mean they're a good thing. It means they're an add-on, like hallucinations and delusions. The negative symptoms they take away from your personality, and then we're like being quiet, not talking, being very shy, kind of things like that. And then there's the cognitive symptoms of just kind of like how well you understand things being told to you, how intelligent you are, or how you can just interact with other people. So that's kind of what makes schizophrenia. So then bipolar is more just your mood. So they're just 2 different things. And then, like I said before,
Hmm.
the schizoaffective is kind of when you have both combined.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. That's really helpful.
It
Mhm.
I
really is. I've not
I
heard
do.
anyone do the positive, negative, and cognitive before. Even in my, because I had to Google it. I didn't know. I mean, I had heard the term and I had heard the terms together, but if anyone does what I did, it was not well and succinctly put like what Michelle just said. So thank you.
Yeah, I guess that's the other thing too, that like, as we're talking, Michelle, it
Yeah.
just seems like there's so much out there that, and I'm using the word media, but it's not just media. It's like generational understanding of what people believe schizophrenia to be. And it's just passed down, and it's almost as though, because it's not taught generally to the public, that because there's no direct understanding and education or examples, positive examples, are there positive examples in the media that you've noticed, or positive examples people can see beyond you, that you would suggest for other people to learn more about schizophrenia?
Well,
Mm.
I mean, there's other advocates that I would say people should look at, like, there's Cody Green, who goes by the schizophrenic hippie. There's, Kit Wallace, who goes by Schizo Kitso. Carolyn Panzoja, what is her username? I forget right now. Um,
We can tag it later.
Yeah, we'll
yeah,
tag them.
and Those are just a few. There's also Dan Laitman, who's a comedian, schizophrenic comedian. He's so funny. I have a video coming out with him soon. I did one with him before, but the next one's gonna be so much better.
I actually
Um,
know exactly who he is, and I think he's hilarious too.
he's
Good
so
choice.
funny. He's so funny. Oh my god, he's so funny. Yeah.
I love that.
Um,
That's
but
really cool.
those are all just like other people with schizophrenia that are great to look up on social media and learn from them. Like they're great. They're awesome. Like the schizophrenia advocates that I like know and hang out with, like they're awesome people. Yeah.
Awesome.
Very cool. So we ask all of our guests this at the end to try and get a sense of everyone's unique perspective. If you could change the world to make things more inclusive, what would you choose to do?
To change the world to make things more inclusive? That's a really good question. I think I would make people in this country just finally love each other again. Bring
Mm,
some
I
peace.
love that
Bring
so
some
much.
unity.
Yes. Thank
yes.
you. Oh, I wish that other people had said that. That's such a great answer.
Like
I think that's
we're
really
so
needed.
split. We're so
Yeah.
Yes.
split. Let's just be friends again. Can we just be friends again?
I,
Everybody's so hating each other. I'm sick of this country with everyone hating each other.
Yeah. Yes. In fact, I know I talked about this once before, but um, my initial reaction to an incident that happened where my children elope, that's part of their autism is they elope. They don't have a risk, understand the risk to safety. They ran out into the street, almost got hit. I immediately, my gut thought this guy was going to yell at me, and he didn't. And that moment of empathy meant so much to me. And so when you say, I wish we liked each other again, like the fact that I was so ready for someone to yell at me really says a lot about where we are as a country and what my expectation was of that interaction. But the fact that he chose something different, I really believe in paying it forward. And I love that that's your message too, is like, let's be kind to each other. We all need kindness. We really don't know what's going on behind closed doors. Um, and I'd really like to get a lot. And the other thing is, technology has made it accessible for us to get in touch with one another, where it wasn't always that way. And so, I know for me, COVID really made me resentful of a lot of things and a lot of people. And now that things are starting to open back up again, I wish some of our leaders would adopt your beliefs as well. I think that that would go a long way for getting the country on the right trend. But at least there's people like you and I and Elena that can start from the ground up.
Yeah. Oh, yes. We just gotta be friends. No hate
Right.
anymore. Just gotta be friends.
Exactly. So, can you please tell our listeners where they can find you and your merch?
Sure. So my website is schizophrenic.nyc. My Instagram is schizophrenic.nyc. My TikTok is schizophrenic.nyc. But my YouTube is schizophrenic.nyc. No dot. I
Okay.
mean, all those phrases.
okay.
Thank you.
We'll
Follow
tag
me,
all of
find
that too
me.
for people to find you
Yeah.
because everybody needs this.
Yeah.
Yes.
That'd be great.
Join the core.
Join.
Thank you so much for being with us today, Michelle. We've loved having you. We feel like your messages of positivity are going to make such an impact on our listeners. And we're so happy we feel privileged to be able to like rep your messages. So thank
Yes.
you so much for just changing the world.
Oh, thank you
Yes.
so much. I try my best. I try my best.
Well, I certainly have learned and also just continue to question things and be curious today. So, to all of our listeners, stay tuned for our next incredible neurodivergent guest. And we wish you a wonderful day of learning and unlearning and curiosity. Take care, everybody. Thanks again, Michelle.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Everything is Learning. If you loved this episode, share it, subscribe to hear more awesome content, and let's keep the conversation going. Stay curious and keep learning. We'll catch you next time.